that segues today to our Rima. And look at this. I landed on Proverbs 23 and 13. Look at this. Do not withhold correction from a child, for if you beat him with a rod, he will not die. You shall beat him with a rod and deliver his soul from hell. Now this is interesting. When you do the studies, even from liberal think tanks, there's studies out of liberal things like Urban, and Ann Coulter was talking about it the other day with Jesse Lee Peterson on her interview with Jesse Lee Peterson. She names the liberal think tank that shows when you look at single mothers and you look at the crime rates of the children, you look at the low education rates, the low income wages in the future, all that kind of stuff. Look at the King James. What does the King James Version do? Let me see the King James Version. Withhold not from the child, for if thou beatest him with the rod, he shall not die. Thou shalt beat him with the rod, and shall deliver his soul from hell. That's pretty similar. Pretty similar to the new King James Version. But anyways, getting back to this study, even liberal think tanks, okay? Liberal leftist think tanks have to admit, statistically, that when you look at it, and they were talking about specifically the black family, when you look at daddy, mommy home, black family with a daddy, mommy home compared to a white family with daddy, mommy home, the crime rates are basically the same. There's no difference. Now, when you take out the daddy and you just have the single mom there, the crime rate skyrockets. You see? Because dads will teach their child boundaries, and they will not parent. They will not parent in an emotional fashion. Okay, and of course, I mean, girls realize this once they have sons. The sons will not listen to them once they're past puberty, because the moms will still speak in this high baby voice, high tone girl voice, because that's, girls' voices don't crack. But as soon as the son can speak in a lower voice, he will feel more powerful. And of course he is more powerful, just physically. And he will not listen to the mom anymore. He will not. And Jesse Lee Peterson's whole ministry is about trying to bring awareness to the angry mom in the black home, which is devastating and destroying the children. And of course, making the men scared of women, so in the future, when they grow up, they can't deal with women. I saw this one of his interviews. He was interviewing an African American guy and a Latino guy, and these guys were saying, "Man, we're scared of women." Basically, they feel nervous around women because their father was not there, and they were raised under this mom, And Jesse Lee was saying, so your mom call you baby? He's like, hey baby, how you doing, baby? Hi baby. The mom is still on heroin, and she still calls the son baby. And he's like, no, I got no problem with that. It's my mom. It's my mom. And Jesse Lee was saying, it's a grave insult for a woman to call you baby. He's like, you like it when women call you baby? He's like, yeah, like this. He was saying, you should not like it when a woman calls you baby. It's a huge put down when a woman calls you baby. But nobody's talking like that in the black community. Nobody. He's the only father figure that's talking like that and say, no, men, you should not like it when you should tell your mom, don't call me baby. I'm not a baby, I'm a man. You should tell your mom that. He said, you should confront your mom and tell her to stop that. And also, he of course tells them that you should forgive your mom for the anger that she had and how she raised you with all this anger to make you have this resentment and fear of women. All that. You should actually go confront her. You have to confront her. And he tells them, have you confronted her? And they say, no, I don't feel I have to do it. He said, no, you have to do it. Then you're not a man. If you're not a man, how can you say you're a man? And he always asks questions like, what's a real man? And they always have these different answers. He said, you can't be a real man unless if you have some resentment or pain, you have to confront that person. You have to tell them. And then you have to tell them, you did this evil to me, but I forgive you. He said, otherwise you can't be a man. Of course, that's what we had to do with the Han mother. We had to confront her. We have to say still we love her and we forgive her on a personal level, obviously, not on a, that's beyond anybody at the national cosmic level. But we had to confront her and tell her we love you, but if you go down this way, mommy, you will destroy yourself. And of course, all this is coming true. As the rats leave the sinking ship on the macrocosm, with Hillary Clinton of Babylon, Harlot of Babylon, on the macro, you can see the rats are starting to throw the Han Mother Harlot of Babylon, the microcosm, under the bus too. More on that in a couple days. But this is the Bible quote that teaches fathers that you must discipline your children. Sometimes you have to hit them. Actually, they found that kids don't actually mind being hit as long as they know why they're being hit. You see what I'm saying? And of course, the problem with beating the child with a immature parent is because you're probably going to whoop them when you're going to probably whoop them when you're emotional. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of minority parents, and especially Korean moms, whoop on their kids like crazy. A lot of black families too. It's just quite common that the mom whoops on them. Okay, probably not in the white suburban rich kids' homes. They don't do that. But Asian homes, Korean homes, maybe not Japanese. I don't think maybe Japanese, but definitely Korean moms. They will whoop you. They're basically they say that Korea is like the Asian Italians or the Asian blacks. But yeah, I mean, all my black friends, their moms whooped them. It's just like very common, Yeah, you got whooped by your mom. It's like the white kid's like, oh my gosh, that's like, oh my goodness, is that true? It's like, oh my gosh, that's like child abuse. These white rich kids in suburbia never got beat by their mom or their parents. But it's like, but in any case, they did the studies. They show very clearly statistically, when there is a dad in the home, the children, the criminality will basically equalize to other families with double parent homes. It will only skyrocket if there's a mom. If the mom is there alone, single mom, it will explode into tons of criminality. So it proves, of course, how absolutely essential the father is in a home. And all the feminists rail and scream like banshees when they hear this because they hate it. It just goes against their whole religion, cult. That's reality, though. You need to have a man to raise a man. A woman cannot raise a man to be a man. A woman can only raise a man to be a woman. And that's why Jesse Lee Peterson, Reverend, was talking about. He talks to black men, and he talks to them real honest. That's why you like a woman. You feel like a woman. You're emotional. You act like a woman. You can't get along with women. And then, like, one of his kids like, yeah, like, I feel like I can't deal with women because I never had a dad, to teach me how to change a tire and do, like, man stuff, man stuff. I never told you, he never teach me how to play the game or whatever, It's like, a mom cannot teach you how to be a man because she's not a man. She's a girl. She can only teach you how to be a girl. That's just a simple reality because God gave them different roles. And of course, this statement is true. Now, when I raised my kids, I didn't have to beat them. I didn't have to beat them with a stick or something, because I had a system to do the disciplining with warnings. You know, if they're doing something, they're acting a fool, then they get a warning, and then, you know, but I stay very calm. Okay. Now, if they really cross the line, and if they need a spanking, if they really cross the line, then they I think our first son got a spanking one time. Okay. But he clearly knew that he deserved it. It was not an emotional spanking. I never get emotional with my kids. And of course, I had to train the queen to not get emotional when she's parenting, because she's a girl, and she's just naturally very more emotional. Now she's at a level where she can control her emotions. I mean, way higher level than 99% of girls. Okay, but before she couldn't, right? And this warning system allowed her to train to not get emotional, don't get angry, and just say, okay, warning one. Okay, good job. You got your warning one. Okay, good job. And then it gives a structure where kids realize, oh shoot, I got a warning. Okay, I did it again. Oh dang, man. Okay, warning two. Dang, 1, 3. And of course, when you first start that program, they test you. So you got to make sure when you get the warning 3, they get the consequence. And our consequence was they had to go and sit on the toilet for 10 minutes. Okay? They have to go in a separate room, which is a bathroom. Lights are on. It's not scary. It's not like the boogeyman or Freddy Krueger's in there. You know what I'm saying? You just keep the lights on. They have to sit on the toilet for 10 minutes. All right? And after 10 minutes, you'll see they just calm down. All that kind of thing. I remember my baby daughter, when she first got her consequence and had to sit on a toilet. Okay, my daughter, she was like, what, 3, 4 years old, something like that. And she was trying to pull on daddy's heartstrings. Oh, daddy. She had like those little bubbly eyes, little googly eyes. Because you know she's so cute. You know, trying to look at me and trying to pull on daddy's heartstrings. But I said, no, baby, you're fine, no problem. Daddy's right in front of the door, and I leave the door open, so I sit right there, so they can see I'm right there. You know what I'm saying? But they get a consequence, and that's very important. That's why you need your daddy. You learn consequences. You do this, you're gonna get consequence, baby. Daddy loves you, but you're gonna get a consequence, okay? And that's why our kids, of course, they're not perfect, but they're mature. For their age, they're very mature. Okay, because their daddy trains them, right? And all the study shows, of course, that's why absolutely critical. All these women, if you believe you don't need a man, and you can raise your children on your own, you're baloney. You're a total anti-reality, narcissistic, anti-science, anti-statistical egoist, because it's just simply not true. He who spares a rod will destroy the child. Deliver his soul from hell, says the Bible. Now, you should not beat your child. You should not discipline them out of anger or emotion, because anger will connect you to the spirit of Satan. Of course, there's something like holy wrath and holy anger and righteousness. But if you have this emotionalized anger, right? And you're disciplining your children that way, you're going to mess up like crazy. You're going to really mess up a lot. You're going to be drunk on anger. You're not going to be able to raise your children. You're going to traumatize them. They're not going to know why you're beating them. All they're going to know is that you're moody and that they have to walk on eggshells to be around you. And then you'll develop, if you're a mom and doing that to your sons, they're going to develop a tremendous resentment against you. And at some point, they will confront you. And of course, Second King will tell them to confront you. So you will not be able to get away with your emotionalism. Your children will come back to confront you. And you definitely deserve it. So you should not do it. Now, even if you discipline your, even if you spank your children, you should obviously have, they should know why. They should know that they crossed the line 3 times. They should know that they have a rational, admittable system that they even themselves can admit, okay, damn, I really crossed the line like 3 times. And you shouldn't like spank them over stupid stuff. You know, let's say that they did something really bad, which is very character-wise is bad. Like they lied to you 3 times. You know, and they're still young or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Something big like that, which needs to really be curtailed. I'm not saying like if they're playing around and they're making so much noise and you say, be quiet, you know, and then you say, okay, warning 1, then the consequence is like much smaller, right? It's like sitting on the toilet. But if it's a consequence that's really bad for their character, right? Like not being truthful to their mom or dad, to a mature mom or dad, then you may be in a situation where you have to up the consequence. And personally, in my family, I did not up the consequence from sitting on the toilet to spanking, right? You up it from sitting on the toilet, and the next time they do that, it's going to be, you know, up consequence. So it's maybe 20 minutes on the toilet, okay? And then once they started exercising, you know, some of the we would talk to them about the consequence and say, okay, what would you like as a consequence? You could have this consequence. Here's some recommendations. You could have sit on the toilet, or sit on the toilet for what, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it was. Or you can run around the circle 10 times, or run to the gate 10 times, whatever it is. You see what I'm saying? And that's actually good for their health anyways, if they're addicted to video games and sitting and being little vegetables. Okay? So then they get to choose. They can think about it. Yeah, that would be a fair punishment. Okay, yeah, if I do that thing, okay, yeah. You know, and then they end up being able to think about their behavior. Okay? So you don't just immediately jump to beating them. You know, and I never had to beat my kids. I never had to. They know daddy's strong. They know daddy's, you know, I don't play around. I mean, I'm very loving. I'm very playful. But I didn't know. You can't cross the lines. You know what I'm saying? You can't try to play games. Okay? Daddy know what you're doing. Daddy know it, and then daddy is your daddy. I'm not your friend. I'm your daddy. I'm here to raise you, so you become an honorable warrior. You see? And so it is absolutely critical that, of course, the citizens of Chaniguk are able to do that skillfully. And to be there to raise their children. This is when a woman really starts appreciating her husband, I think. If she has a husband who has maturity, when they have children, she will see her utter hopelessness in trying to manage boys. I mean, really, it's very difficult for a mom to just raise boys, unless she completely tries to dominate them with anger and threats. But if she does that, that comes back to bite them, because then they don't know how to deal with women, or they will start hating women. You see? This is a problem. So there's a problem when you have immature parents who have not had mind and body unity. Or even trained in mind body unity. You don't have to have perfect mind body unity to raise your children unemotionally, or without tons of emotion. Now that doesn't mean you won't have fun, emotional times and stuff like that with your kids. No, you'll have plenty of that. But you're not disciplining them in an emotional fashion. Okay, that's very important. Your kids have to know that when you're disciplining them, it's because it's their behavior. When it's overly emotionalized, they will actually interpret that as thinking that you hate them. So that's the problem with emotional moms. If you try to discipline your children and you're emotional, like, why you do that? Why you do that? Why don't you love it? Don't you love that? And you start crying, acting a fool, and like, you say, if you do that kind of stuff, then what the child starts learning is that you hate them. Because you never act like that to anybody else, right? They can see you don't act like that to adults. They can see you don't act like that. You control yourself to other people. But to them, you just let it pour out like the freaking floodgates. That is very irresponsible. Extremely irresponsible, extremely damaging. Your children will be messed up for literally their life. And of course, at some point, if you've done that to them, they should confront you and say, that was very evil and painful. They should confront you. Of course, they should say they forgive you because you did do wrong. You did act like a child. And your children should confront you, especially your sons should confront you. They should call you out on that. I mean, they don't have to do it. I mean, they can do it, to you. Now, in the case of the Han mother, it's not just an individual matter. Obviously, she's trying to hijack the entire movement and the Worldwide Foundation and the successorship and all that was not given to her. So obviously, that's a different scenario. I did it to her individually, of course, for months. Having to confront her, having to tell her, Mommy, you cannot go down this path in a loving way. But of course, since she was doing public things, excuse me, then of course, as a second king in my responsibility, I had to stand up against her publicly. Right? But for normal families, it's a matter of confronting her one-on-one, which of course I had to do too. So it is very important to discipline the children, but not emotionally. The Bible says, do not withhold correction from a child, for if you beat him with a rod, he will not die. You shall beat him with a rod and deliver his soul from hell. It says that, yes, but it doesn't say you're supposed to beat him emotionally. The next verse, my son, if your heart is wise, see, you have to do it with wisdom. You have to have a heart that is wise. You may have to spank your kids. Spare the rod, spoil the child, right? You may have to spank your kids in some way, but you have to do it with a wise heart, not a emotionalized, angry heart. You have to do it with a wise heart. A heart that is beyond the stupid emotions that make you angry, but a heart that is thinking of that child's future. Okay? My son, if your heart is wise, my heart will rejoice. Indeed, I myself, yes, my inmost being will rejoice when your lips speak right things. Okay? So that's the following verse of how you discipline your child. Okay, you do that. But he said, my son, your heart must be wise. Do it with a wise heart. Don't be quick to be angry. What does the Bible say about God? He is slow to anger. Slow to anger. Now God, at some point, there is a breaking point, and there is a line you must not cross, and that God, holy anger, will come. But he's not emotional with you. He's not emotionally angry. He just realized you've stepped over the line to become Satan, and so he has to stop you and allow you to be punished. Doesn't mean he's emotional. You see? He's been patient with you until you really push, and now you cross the line. Okay, you know what? You cross that line. Okay, now the consequences have to come. Okay, now you're killing children, you're raping babies. All right, now the consequence has to come on your nation. You see what I'm saying? It's just like God waited and waits and waits and waits and be patient. And then the homosexual political movement and the transgender political sexual movement, the hypersexualization of the children, and then the pedophile movement. There's some point where God says, okay, no more. And the murdering of babies with abortion. I mean, just at some point, no more. Okay? It's not like God is emotionalized about it, but he's like, no, okay, now I'm starting to get angry. I've been patient with you. Patient. I've been slow to anger, but you just tested me. And now and that's really important in parenting too. As a father, you have to be patient with your children. You can't, as soon as they did one little thing wrong, you can't be like, warning one! If you do that, then they'll really feel like you're like a surveillance cop or something. Like a bad federal policeman or something, right? You don't want to create that environment in your home. You want them to know that you are patient and loving. So they do something, they're making a ruckus when they're young. They're making just a crazy plum loco noise because they're having fun with their friends or whatever, or the siblings, whatever. They're playing around, screaming, you know how boys do, right? Sword fighting, all this crap, and then all this kind of stuff. Well, you know what I would do? I would let them play, and I would just because I know fighting too, so I would think that's fine. Boys can act it out, they can play out, they can fight. And they can play fight and do sword fighting, all this, what boys do. But then, so I would wait, and it's crazy, it's nuts, it's loud, and the mom's saying, be quiet, be quiet. I tell the mom, no, don't worry, guys. You settle down, I'm settle down. Let them play. And then, okay, but then they're playing, and then they bump into the thing, and then now stuff starts falling down, it starts cracking. So, okay. Now we've reached a point. Okay, you see what I'm saying? That's what I would do. I would be patient. So, okay, all right, boys. You got warning one. Yeah, but I wouldn't get angry. Like they broke my teapots and stuff like that, hitting the things. And I wouldn't be like, you little idiots, give my bam. I wouldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? I'd just be like, okay. All right, okay, boys. Now you got warning one. Okay, there's warning one. You see, like this. So I would be slow to anger. They know daddy doesn't get angry fast, right? This is important because that is, as fathers and husbands, we have to emulate God. We have to be slow to anger. When we do get angry, though, there has to be consequences, okay? But you have to be slow to anger. If you're an emotional man because you've been raised by a resentful, angry woman, okay, and you've never learned how to be patient father by a good dad, okay? If you learn that anxiety from your mom and you're not aware of it, you have to confront her. You have to tell her. You have to tell her. You have to say, you have to meet her and say, Mom, you really raised me with a lot of anxiety. And your anxious energy makes me anxious. And that really damaged the way I have to deal with people in this world. I'm in that sense, I'm kind of handicapped, and I resented you for that, and I forgive you. You have to do it. Because then you're gonna be having that anxious energy putting down in your children, even as a man. But you'll never be a real man until you do that, right? And if you don't do that and be set free from that, like Jesse Lee Peterson says, if God doesn't set you free from that, you will always have this anxious energy, and you will actually behave like your mom when you raise your kids, which you don't want to do. You do not want to do it. You need to be the father of the home. Men, you need to be the father of the home. That means you don't act like your mom. You have to act like a father. How your God is a heavenly father. Now you'll see the difference between girls and boys, because boys were used to play fighting. We're used to that. That's not an abnormal activity. So when we see that activity with our young boys, all right, they're just being boys. Now, moms are not used to seeing that unless they grew up in a warrior culture, unless they're training, with the king and all this kind of stuff. They'll be different. But I'm talking about normal girls who don't. It's like normal girls are playing with Barbie dolls, right? And there was this whole thing in psychology that they were trying to say, that these are socially constructed, these are boys and girls actually are not different. And that it's only because we put them in blue and pink roles. That's been totally debunked as bullcrap. Even though they raised them, they've done studies where they had children in neutral settings where they had no gender signals. Still the boys would fight. Still the boys would play fight. The girls would actually go and do more communal things. You can't. This is how we're created by God. Okay. You can't get rid of it. So in the girls' world, it's like wacky to see that, Girls will see boys play fight and then just like walk away. They'll try to run away from that. Right? So your mom will not, she will, if you are too feminine and you find yourself being very girly, so to speak, not a man, it's probably because your mom was domineering, or she was the sort of ruler in your house, tacitly, or unimplied, in an unimplied fashion. So you have problems being a man and embracing masculinity and being a strong man because you had an overbearing mom and maybe you had a weak dad. Now, I don't have a problem with that because my father was a very strong man. You know what I'm saying? So in my home, I'm a very strong daddy. And on the mats, when I train the kids, I'm a strong master. I'm a strong instructor. They know that. I'm loving, but I'm patient, but I'm strong. Right? Because I have a very strong father. Right? My king and my father was very strong, but he was loving. He was very loving. But he was slow to anger, but he was strong. He was a strong man. And I love him for that. I love him for that. Because I learned how to be a man by my father. You see what I'm saying? I learned how to embrace my masculinity by my father. My boys don't have a problem with that. They're becoming manly men who are also loving and kind, but men because their daddy is a man. Right? But if you find yourself that you're overly sensitive and you're overly emotional and you're scared of women, it's probably because you had a overbearing mom or overbearing female figure that basically ruled over you. And you will be always put in bondage unless you confront her. You have to confront that person. You don't have to get emotional, but you have to tell her that what she tried to do, that she sinned against you, that she tried to dominate you, that she didn't allow you to connect to your father's masculinity. And if your father was too effeminate, you have to tell your father, you have to tell him, you have to confront him too and say, Dad, you were too nice and you were too effeminate. You let mom rule the house. So I realized that I resented you because you never taught me how to be a man and how to be the head of my household and to be head of my wife. To be subject, but to be head of my wife. You as a husband, you have a role. You have to raise your wife. You have to be like her head coach. But that requires you to be higher level and it requires you to be mature. Right? So you have to raise your wife. You have to understand that you have to raise your wife. You're not going to come in, even though a girl is mature, emotionally, they're not going to be able to, almost 90+%, 95% of the time, they're not going to be, their emotional control will be way less than men. So you have to raise her in love and in patience, in talking and explaining to her, being patient with her over the years. You have to raise her so she doesn't do that to your children. Right? God, Jesse Lee always says, and this is really, he's really distilling it. God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, woman over children. Okay? Children in mom, mom in dad, dad in Christ, Christ in God. Okay, you can go up or down. Up or down. It's the same way. All right? It's just a simple reality that moms cannot raise children alone. They cannot. Especially when you have boys in the mix. Maybe if you have a whole house of girls, well, they'll learn how to be a woman, but they'll never have the love of father. And girls need the love of father, otherwise they'll have an emptiness and they'll start attracting very dangerous men because they don't know what type of men are good. And that's very dangerous too for girls. That's why girls will have, even with fathers not in the home, girls will have higher teen pregnancy rates because they don't know how to identify honorable men, and they're taught by media and rap videos or whatever, music videos by Hollywood, to date predators. So they get screwed, literally and spiritually, physically, mentally, all that. So the love of the father is the key relationship in a family. It's absolutely critical. And if you don't have the love of a patient but strong father, you will not be able to connect with God. You won't. Because God is a strong father, but he's patient. You see? So if you have a situation where your mom was overbearing and your father was, maybe let's say your father was a little effeminate, and maybe he was like basically the mom and your mom was basically the dad, at some point you have to confront them. You have to tell them, hey, I don't feel whole because of mom, you were too overbearing. And especially if you're a boy, you have to do this. You have to do it. But girls too, you have to do this too. But especially if you're a boy, you have to do this. You have to step up and be a man. You cannot be a boy holding this reality. You have to confront your mom, and if your dad was very, very feminine, you have to confront your dad. Tell him, Dad, I could not learn how to be a man from you. You didn't teach me how to be a husband and how to raise my wife and be like the head coach in the home, to be the head of my wife. You didn't teach me, and I'm suffering because of that. I don't know how to deal with women. I don't know how to help them. I don't know how to get their respect so that they do submit to me and want to learn from me. I don't know how to do that because you never taught me, and I resent you because of that. I resent you, and I have a lot of pain, and I have a lot of problems in my life because I've not learned that from you, and I have to learn that from other men. But I forgive you. I forgive you. You have to do it. Then God will forgive you and set you free. And then, of course, maybe he will even convict your father and have your father change his life too and try to become more masculine. And it's not like a lot of these guys, it's not like it's even their fault, because in the West, especially in the West, men have been brainwashed to become girls. But everybody knows that girls are not attracted to men that are effeminate, unless they actually want to dominate a man, and because they're so different. That means they're so unconfident that they actually know they're attracted to stronger men sexually, but they want a man that they can control in the house. But those are more evil girls. Those are girls that are on the nefarious side. They want to control, they want to dominate, they don't want to love, they don't want to serve their partner. They want to be served, but they don't want to serve, right? This is evil. But if you're in that situation and you are a man, and if you hear this word and you realize why you can't deal with women well, and I'm telling you, a lot of Western men have this problem. They just don't know how to deal with women. They're scared of women. They're literally scared of girls. I mean, it's like ridiculous. And especially if she's pretty or hot, then they're even more scared. Why are you scared of a girl? Number one, she's a human being. Number two, she's not a goddess. I don't care if she's hot. Don't be mesmerized by beauty. She still, flatulates and farts and does diarrhea and barfs. She does all that nasty crap. You know what I'm saying? So whenever in your mind, if you're being intimidated by a girl, and maybe you're preparing for the blessing, whatever, the girl is really beautiful, don't be intimidated. Every time you feel intimidated, just remember, oh, this girl flatulates and barfs and does stupid things and, sits on the toilet and tries to push out poos and gets constipated. You know what I'm saying? She's a freaking human being. You don't have to be mesmerized by the beauty. But a lot of men fall into that. And the reason why you're doing that, men, probably the reason why you're doing it is because your mom was probably too overbearing. You have to confront her about it. God will set you free. And then your dad, maybe, if you had it, hopefully you had a dad, your dad was uninvolved. Your dad was too effeminate. Your dad was detached. Maybe he had some other problems with alcoholism, whatever the case may be. Anyways, that dad was not teaching you how to be a man. He wasn't teaching you how to fight. He wasn't teaching you how to win. He wasn't teaching you how to be strong. He wasn't teaching you how to finish what you started. He wasn't teaching you how to do things on time. He wasn't teaching you how to not act a fool. He wasn't teaching you. He didn't teach you how to become. He didn't teach you how to not let women dominate you. If you have that kind of dad, you also have to confront him. You have to confront him in love and tell him that you resent him for that. You have to do it. Do it. You have to do it. You may be 50, 60, 70 years old, and if your mom and dad is alive, you still got to do it. I had to do it too. I had to do it to her mother. You have to do it. You have to find closure there. Then God, your Heavenly Father, will send people. He will probably transform your dad and mom. He will make them realize what they've done. He will set you free. Take heed to the Word of God. Take heed. It's Friday, November 10th. I'll see you right after this break.
Thank you.